Hi, Dr. Iyo Paul here. Now, I had promised before now that I was going to do a video talking about understanding the difference between your feelings and your sense of reasoning. Now, in order for you to understand this from a layman's perspective, the brain, in terms of structure and function, can be divided into three areas. Now, I'm trying to be simplistic so that you can understand, because I believe that if you cannot understand or make sense of medical knowledge to be able to better your life, then of what use is it? So, your brain, in terms of structure and function, can be broadly classified into three different areas. There's a part of your brain that controls what can be described as autonomic functions. That means functions that happen by itself. You don't need to do anything about it. For example, your heartbeat, your pulse, okay, your breathing, and your respiration. These things, they are autonomic function. Your digestion, they occur without you consciously doing something about it. So there's a part of your brain that handles that aspect. There's another part of your brain that handles your feelings, your mood, your emotions. Okay, now there's a third part of your brain that handles what can be called executive function. Okay, so your decision-making part, the ability to look at issues objectively, to now make decisions. So these three major parts of the brain, they are very, very important. And in trying to explain it, though it might look as if they are separated, but they are interrelated and they can affect one another. Now, why is it important for you to understand the difference between your sense of reasoning and your feelings? Now, if you look at how the body functions, for example, if you receive sensations from outside of your body, okay, and it gets through the brainstem. Actually, I've not mentioned the part of the brain that handles these three major areas. So I talked about the autonomic functions. Okay, so the brainstem is largely handles that aspect, the autonomic functions. And then that's the brainstem. And then we'll talk about the limbic system. The limbic system contains a lot of other structures, under the limbic system that handles the mood, your emotions, okay? And then the executive function of your brain is handled by the frontal cortex, the frontal part of your brain. Okay, your frontal lobe, the frontal brain. So these three different areas. So today I'm talking about your sense of reasoning and your feelings. So your sense of reasoning is handled by the frontal cortex, by the frontal part of the brain. That's where you are able to make decisions, having compared informations and all that. And then your feelings is coordinated by the limbic system. So for example, let's say sensations coming from outside of your body, passes through the brainstem, and then goes to the limbic system that controls your emotions. You begin to have feelings, all kinds of feelings. There are different kinds of feelings. Now there are various kinds of feelings. At least there are about over 15 identified feelings that you can have in your body as a human being. And so something happens, or you hear information, or you see something, or you hear something. You could be happy, you could be sad, and so on and so forth. Now, some people live at the limbic system level. That means that they are controlled largely by information they hear, and then their mood takes over. But you see, there is another level of living that is functioning at the frontal lobe level. So whereby when you receive information, and of course the moods are generated, which you really cannot control, once information hits that part of the brain, the necessary moods are generated. So then you can go ahead to process those information in spite of the mood. So that means you are engaging your frontal cortex, okay, the frontal part of your brain. Okay, and engaging the frontal part of the brain, you are now able to arrive at certain decisions. So you're making a decision, or you're taking a decision, or you decide on what you want to do. Now, let me say something very interesting, and I will talk about this later on. Now, sexual arousal is handled by is related to the brainstem area, that part of the brain that handles autonomic functions. So for some unexplained reasons, you can just be sexually aroused, maybe by seeing something, seeing a video, or hearing something, So I'll talk about that later on. But today I'm concerned about how the relationship between your sense of reasoning and your feelings. So if you live at the limbic system level, that means you are mood directed. You are going to make decisions, or you will take some steps that may not do well for you later on. On the other hand, if you learn how to process information, that means you engage the frontal part of your brain more, in spite of your feelings, then you will likely make decisions or arrive at conclusions that will be rational, that will help you to be able to make sound decisions and then make progress. There are some people, because they don't understand how this happens, some people pride themselves in being, as if they do me, now so I they talk them, or as if they do me for body, now so I just they blot them out. Why your emotions, of course, are very valid for you as a human being, but the ability to rationalize, to think through before you speak, to think through before you take an action or make a decision, process the information through and through, it's very, very important and very, very valid. So we will talk more on this, because this is a whole lot, but I believe you have a sense of what I'm trying to talk about. So you can't just pride yourself in either being just an emotional person or just somebody that always makes rational decisions, because of course you cannot discountenance your feelings. So we also talk about the aspect of emotional intelligence, the ability to be able to, yes, you can have the emotions, you can feel the emotions, but you need to rationalize, you need to look at those things that you have heard, all the information you have received, to now make a decision, make up your mind on what to do, and so on and so forth. I hope this has been helpful. All right, we'll talk again. My name is Dr. Iyo Paul. We'll talk soon.